Доброго ранку, колеги.
Good morning, esteemed colleagues. We're starting our working day traditionally from the press briefing of the Speaker of ATO, Anatoliy Stelmakh, and now I would like to invite the Speaker of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Vladyslav Seleznyov. Good morning, dear colleagues. I'm glad to see you here. The briefing, brief information on the events taking place in the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine during the last 24 hours. The wife of the President of Ukraine, Marina Poroshenko, gave to the military unit of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in Zhytomyr region 5 mobile laundry units for servicemen who are in the ATO zone. 5 more set units are being finished in Dnipropetrovsk and will be ready to be transported in the nearest future. Mobile laundry units is the joint project with the participation of the President's wife, Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, and charity foundation Krylo Phoenix. The Ministry of Defense provided trailers, and the experts are working on them. The charity fund Krylo Phoenix bought the tanks for water generators and pumps, and the charity fund of Petro Poroshenko bought professional laundry units. Mobile laundry units will improve conditions of staying of Ukrainian servicemen in the front line. The armed forces of Ukraine continue to receive new armament and military equipment from the state companies of Ukraine, and according to international contracts. The military units and subunits of the armed forces of Ukraine in the zone of ATO received recently more than 121 artillery ammunition of different types, including 30mm shells for main guns, 152mm shells for self-propelled howitzers, and grenades VOK-25 for grenade launchers. Besides, the units in the ATO zone have also received 10 armored vehicles of British manufacturer Saxon, which Ukraine has recently received as military technical assistance from Great Britain. The armored vehicles have Ukrainian armament on them. The Saxon vehicles have the armor of NATO standard B7. That means that they can resist the shelling from the 7.62mm caliber weapons. The main task of Saxon vehicles is the transportation of the groups up to 7 servicemen to the place of location, and also evacuation of wounded people. The vehicle can move with the speed of 96 kilometers per hour and overcome the water obstacles 90 centimeters depth. In the end of the February, in the higher military educational institutions, there will be the early graduation of attendees and cadets. Now the cadets have finished their practical training in the training centers and military units and are ready to take state exams. Parallel to that, the graduates of educational institutions and the commanders of training centers participate in comprehensive practical trainings on military medical training, which is organized as part of the humanitarian initiative of the World Congress of Ukrainians. Also, the recruited officers also participate in these trainings starting from February 2015. Now, the net of the military educational institutions of Ukraine include 2 universities, 4 academies, 3 military institutes, 3 faculties, 20 chairs of military training, 3 chairs of medicine of catastrophes and military medicine, and also 2 military lyceums in Kiev and Odessa. The Ministry of Defense and the government of Ukraine are organizing the measures to optimize the military educational institutions structure. The resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine on reorganization and creating the higher educational units and higher educational institutes from the 30th of January 2015 stipulates the Zhytomyr Military Institute and Military Institute of Telecommunications and Informatization are removed from the State University of Telecommunication. Now, in the Central Executive Board is one more draft resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers on optimization of the network of military educational units has been approved. This draft provides for creation in higher educational establishments of Ukraine of 6 chairs of military training and 7 chairs of medicine of catastrophes and military medicine. At the same time, 2 chairs of military training will be liquidated, and Donetsk National Technical University and Eastern Ukrainian National University, named after Dalle. We would like to remind that these universities are evacuated from the temporarily occupied territory, and they have no material technical basis to train the officers of reserve. Today, the training of the officers of reserve for the armed forces of Ukraine is conducted in the highest military educational establishments at 20 chairs of military training, 3 chairs of medical catastrophes and military medicine. Now, the training, about 30,000 students are undergoing such training. These were the short news about the activity of the Ministry of Defense during the last 24 hours. Now, I would like to give the floor to Anatoliy Stelmakh, who will inform you about the events in ATO zone. Good morning, Anatoly. So please give the update on the last 24 hours in ATO zone. During the night from the 16th to the 17th of February in the zone of ATO, we observed the insignificant reduction in the number of shellings at the positions of Ukrainian forces. At the same time, the terrorists have concentrated at the Baltsevsky direction. The artillery and mortars were shelling at Popasna, Sanzharivka, Chernuhina. 3 times the enemy was shelling from Grad systems on Debaltseva. In Lugansk direction during the night, terrorists twice were shelling at Novotoshkivske from Grad systems and 1 time the Zolote settlements from mortars. In Donetsk directions, the bands were launching the mortar firing on Opetne and near Donetsk airport. In Mariupolsky direction, the criminals during the nights, the enemy was shelling at our positions 15 times. In total, the terrorists 21 times were shelling on ATO forces from Grads, 5 times from artillery, 19 from mortars and grenade launchers. The number of shellings and the territory indicate that the enemy is trying to seize Debaltseva, but during the 24 hours, the ATO forces have not lost a single position. Ukrainian military want peace, but they will not will not give their land away. We would like to mention that because of the shellings on the Ukrainian positions near Shastya, Nizhny Tepla, and also the activities of the subversive reconnaissance groups of the enemy to avoid man-made disaster, the gas supply at the section of gas pipeline Nizhno-Teplo-Obozna is temporarily suspended. At the same time, the supply of gas could be quickly renewed after the shellings stop, after the repair works are conducted, and after the territory is demined. Thank you, Anatoly. Any other information, Vladyslav, or questions? Good afternoon, 1+1 TV channel. Could you please tell what is the situation in Logvinovo at the highway Artemivsk-Debaltseva? Logvinovo is now in the zone of firing from Ukrainian artillery. For several days there were very fierce battles going on. Now in the outskirts of the settlement there are our checkpoints. This settlement is in the zone of our control. And in general, Artemivsk-Debaltseva road, are there any places there that would certify that there is a possible entrapping of the troops in Debaltseva? There's no information like that. The road is absolutely controlled by our forces. There are our checkpoints. The road is controlled by us, and we are delivering the ammunition, food products, and the servicemen there. Why the militants need Debaltseva? Despite this truce, or ceasefire, they're trying to occupy it. Why do they need Debaltseva? It's probably the militants, the proxies should answer, but I believe we shouldn't give a single meter of our land away, because that is our land and we'll be defending it according to Minsk agreements. Any other questions? No more questions. Thank you, Anatoly. Have a nice day, and see you tomorrow. Next briefing on the ATO zone will take place at 12:30. The briefing by Colonel Lysenko.